I wasn't planning on that.
The stress buster. I mean, I was wrong on that.
Yeah, I think so.
FLDS online,
You said,
full time.
Yeah, I'm on report for a while.
He finished for sixth grade and seventh grade, and extra eighth and.
If they say so.
oh,
But it's a no.
actually, it was because she done.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's done it 3 or 4 years ago.
Dominique.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you. I know it's up around about the numbers. Mr. Simpson?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, March 10th, 2022, 7 p.m. In attendance, we have Commissioners Heather Rutledge, Roger Eckert, Rick Basso, and Mayor Cameron Lane. Jim Connell is not here this evening for personal reasons, I guess it's close enough. Also in attendance, our city attorney, Scott Simpson, city administrator, we have the director of administration, Dominic Drager, our police, and a bunch of esteemed citizens. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And also in attendance is Vince Kuda. Hello, Vince. He is here this evening to do our invocation. Good try.
Thank you for standing. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we're delighted in one sense the fact that we're alive, we're well, we're here. Thank you for our commission, for our mayor. We pray for their health for them, for their families, and all those who serve in the military and those on our police force. A lot of our hearts are heavy tonight, Father, for the Ukrainians. We pray for them. Pray for the Russian people. Pray that there be peace in that land. And Father, we just ask for wisdom for our commission and for our mayor tonight as they cover the agenda that's before them. Thank you that there will be peace and unity in this hall. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Let's do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Matt. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda from my fellow commissioners? I have made a bunch of changes to the original published agenda. Mostly was moving things around. I will, as we go through, I have page numbers listed. If it gets confusing in your packet, I can tell you what page numbers we're on. Does staff have any additions or deletions?
Mr. Mayor, I usually want to pull 7A for consideration either at April or in time of them.
Okay, so 7A is, and I was hoping to put that to a special meeting, but we're gonna get that later in the agenda, we'll address that.
That's what pulled up this meeting.
Yes, okay, so 7A has been stricken from this agenda. Okay, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion, or does anybody have anything they want pulled off of the consent agenda and discuss?
Yes, I'd like the Parks and Playground Committee to be pulled off the consent agenda.
Okay. We'll discuss that next then. Any other items? Do I have a motion for items A through D? 6A through D?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
The motion from Rick Basso, a second from Roger Eckert, to accept the consent agendas, item 6A through 6D. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 6E, request for special meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, you have to approve the minutes.
Oh, I skipped one. It's a tiny little line. Item 5, I apologize. Approval of minutes, it's pages 6 through 14 in your original packet.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Basso.
Second.
Motion second by Commissioner Eckert. For approval of the minutes, there's 2 sets of minutes, one for the last monthly meeting and then for the special meeting in between. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now to item 6E, and Commissioner Eckert, if you'd like to address that.
Okay, the reason why I requested to have the Parks and Playground Committee thing put on the agenda is because we have standing applications from back in December for the current committee. And I know everybody's wanting to have a special meeting in regards to what the future of the Parks and Playground Committee is going to hold. Well, that's fine again, but the Parks and Playground Committee has had 2 vacancies. There's 2 applications, and I think we should fill those vacancies and let the committee continue until we have our meeting and decide what its future is going to be.
Okay. Any other discussion on this matter?
I know there was a 3rd application that was submitted in, I think, yesterday?
Yeah.
And I think the first 2 that came in was enough to fill the thing, and they've been waiting for it to be put on. And
I will throw in, just as for informational purposes, I did intend to ask for a special meeting with one of the primary items being Parks and Playground. In that vein, I presumptuously, and my apologies in advance, or not in advance, my apologies right now, I presumptuously called the applicants and told them that we were going to be bumping this to a special meeting. So if I know Charlene's here, Ms. Callahan, are you here?
No,
I probably the reason she is not here.
she wrote it.
Okay, so anyway, that's good. She may not be here, so that's my fault, and I apologize for that. I did speak with her husband and told her that that was not going to happen. I also spoke with Rick Taylor and told him the same thing, so. But I appreciate your thoughts. Do you want to make that in the form of a motion?
sure, I'll make that a motion.
Or, okay, good.
We accept the two original applications, one from December and I forget when the other one was, January, February.
From Charlene Bishop and Roxanne Gallahan?
Yes. To fill the vacancies on the Park and Playground Committee.
Is there a second? Well,
I knew that was gonna happen.
So did we. It's okay.
motion dies for lack of a second. Well, why don't we right now, I'm sorry, so you want some discussion?
Yes, please. It was my understanding, I thought it was a mutual understanding, that Parks and Rec Board that's currently in place didn't get great direction from this board. And the board agrees with that, and I think we mutually agree that we don't have direction. So my thought was, why do we want to put people on the board that does not have commission direction? So the whole reason for the workshop is to get an understanding of what this particular group is supposed to be doing, and that is the direction that will precipitate whatever direction we go.
Typically, when you appoint people on the board, they get direction after they've been appointed. That's what happened with the charter review board.
One thing I'm sorry, Trevor. One thing I
I'm
was
sorry,
gonna-
too.
I'm sorry. Okay, I would like to schedule a special meeting. Does anybody else?
I've been asking for a special meeting for that.
We've had it scheduled twice now. It's a couple of reasons it hasn't happened, but, are you all amenable to that? So let's look at our calendars and schedule it. I am thinking March. No. Well, you can have it as long as I'm not there. What I would like to do, next week for me is not good because my daughter is getting married. And we've got plenty going on in preparation for that. I can do it then if it comes down to it, but I'd rather not. My preference, only my preference would be, March 21 through 23. Two reasons. One is it gets me past my daughter's wedding. The other is a couple of other things I want to put on that agenda. I really need some more time to gather some data and information for, so that we can make that part of the agenda more productive. So that's my 2 cents worth. How about y'all?
Should be available any of those days.
So that's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, March 21, 22, or 23. What works for y'all? And what time of day? I know evenings.
After 5 is good for me on those days.
Okay. 6 o'clock maybe?
On the 21st, that eliminates meetings.
No,
I
no,
got an American Legion meeting.
Okay, so the 22nd then? Maybe?
I'm
Tuesday, the 22nd at 6 p.m.?
Sounds good.
Okay. Tuesday. How about staff? Is that?
Okay with me?
Okay.
And it is a special meeting?
Yes, it will be my intention is to have a special meeting because there are a couple of things like a biometrics contract that we might want to do.
That way we can just go ahead and vote and make it be done.
Yeah, yeah, we'll publish an agenda, we have time to do that. I do have a speaker from the audience who would like to comment on this item, yes, please. And if you could fill out a blue card once before you sit back down.
The city attorney has a conflict on the 22nd.
Oh,
But I don't know if I need to be here for it. I don't have to.
If it's a workshop, not if it's a special meeting.
I think it's a special meeting, can you do the 23rd? That's a Wednesday.
Yes.
Rest of the commission, how's that sit with y'all?
I'm good.
6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 23rd. Ms. O'Loughlin, you want to speak?
Billy O'Loughlin, 17 Kingsey Road. Okay, we have people, and I'm going to address the person thing, we're supposed to be on tonight. We had Charlene put her application in before Christmas, and I think it was January or February, the Roxanne, I think in January, Roxanne put hers in. All right, we have people that really want to do this, and all I'm hearing is stonewalling. Just stonewalling until we can do something with it. Now, there was no reason why you couldn't, I thank you, by the way, thank you, Roger, for doing that. There was no reason why you couldn't have accepted them. We could have met, or you could have given us what you want to read. We all know how to do this. Charlene's been on it, I've been on it. We know how to do this, and we had an extended conversation at the last meeting. There was no reason for you all not to do that when you've got people that really want to do something. And with sunshine in July or August or whatever it is anyway, so you all could just dump us in. But in the meantime, you've got people that really want to step up and do something. and you stonewalled us again. This is ridiculous. I am so disappointed that this was done like it was, and there was no reason for it. Commissioner Basil, you could have seconded it, we could have done it, we could have made whatever arrangements we needed to do. But really, the biggest issue you all have, which is ridiculous anyway, is the sunshine thing, which we had a discussion on last month. All right, we're not gonna talk about that. All we need to do is know when we can have it, then we can actually set up a meeting that is all done straight, way it's supposed to be done, with minutes and everything, and then get on with things. We didn't need to put it off for another whatever time, because it's wasting time when you have, that's why people don't volunteer. Why bother volunteering, because you get stonewalled and everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Laughlin. I do have many points, and I thank you for that. I hope we can iron it all out in the special meeting. I really do, and I appreciate very much the people who step forward and volunteer. I truly do. It makes the city work, and we all know that. So I appreciate your passion for it and your points about it. Okay. On to new business, item 7A.5, I suppose. Did you want to address that as the second part of your item 7A, or did you not want to do that? But it's also later in the agenda packet, so we can address it then.
Give me a clue. What's the first one?
Sorry, the fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes. I was just gonna put that a comment that we done. You want me to announce it?
It's also later in the agenda. You attacked it here, and I saw that it was doubled up. I didn't get a chance to ask you about that.
No, it's.
We'll get to it later.
It could be it's just an information on that.
Okay, it comes up again at 11D.
Yeah.
Okay, item 7B, purchase of a second and final batch of police radios. Mr. Administrator.
Okay, as you recall, in the last budget, in the last fiscal year, we purchased, I believe it was 5 mobile and portable radios for our new police cars, and replaced older equipment. It was all necessitated by the sheriff going to a fully digital system, and our radios were not compatible, at least most of them, some would have been compatible, but they were very old, so we did purchase those to replace them. We forecast this year that we would do the rest of the remaining radios, put money in the budget, and we purchased them this year. And again, I would remind you, there was a sale time, these were on sale, because of the bid that the sheriff, that all of the participating municipalities, could participate in the sale up to, I believe it's June of this year, the chief's got the details that I'm sure it will. But this is simply to buy the radios for the police cars that we have not yet purchased, but that plan to purchase. We simply split the purchase in 2 fiscal years. We've done the first batch, this is the second batch. We also wanted just to let you know, the chief and I talked about, if we have another vehicle, we'd like to be able to have the authority to purchase another set, a 6th set of mobile radios, so we could have it available. Not talking about purchasing now and purchase it later, but we want to have it, the order in so we match the sale price. And if you need it, you can buy it. If you don't need it, you won't buy it. Anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Do you need a motion from us to proceed?
Yes.
Any discussion, or is there a motion?
I got a question. On your request for the approval to go ahead and plan for the next set,
6th one.
is it within the police department budget to cover it?
Yes, it does. You recall, we had, we eliminated the funding for the commander's position. And that has a tremendous amount of money left available there. I mean, it's in the police department, it's in personnel, we're not gonna hire that person. So we have the excess funds there.
And I'm not going to pay a lot because there's been a lot of issues that come up that you reference that paid scale.
Well, only the personnel rating.
Well, the last time you referenced this, I think, was when we bought the first half of this order.
Okay.
I'm not interested in buying something for something that we don't have.
I'm sorry.
I'm not interested in buying an extra one for a vehicle we don't have.
Oh, it's not for a vehicle, we have a vehicle, but Chief, you like to
It was, yeah, I'll explain it. It's,
Okay.
the reason I brought it up is it's a base unit or a single which inside the vehicle is not these. So right now, we purchased 4 to accommodate the new vehicles that we've got, but we still have a base radio in the station, we still have a police truck, and we still have the 2 Dodge Chargers, plus a reserve car, that we're gonna be keeping, just one of the Crown Vics. If you've noticed, all the other Crown Vics are at the city hall. So we've got one left at the station. Because we do get a lot of flack about the police cars being there, so I'm just adding that in. The reason why I was thinking I did it on the base unit is, if down the road we purchase another police car, if our police department grows, that police rate is gonna cost roughly $1,800. If we buy it after June 22nd of this year, it'll cost us 3 times the amount. So
Are you projecting buying another police car?
even if we do it within 2 years or 3 years, we would still be saving, 3 times the amount of money. We would save roughly 6%.
Yeah, if either you are projecting it, you may, or you don't. If you are projecting it, then it makes sense. If
It's
you're
one of
not
those things that
projecting
we
it,
don't know if we're gonna need another police officer, with how the city grows in the next couple of years. It was, it would be like an $1,800 purchase now to say, it'd be 5,000 if we wait until after June.
Unless by the time we get ready to use it, it's obsolete, we gotta get it.
It's very, it's not the end of the world if we don't get the extra.
Yeah, I'm not interested in buying an extra tool for a vehicle.
Correct, we budgeted the amount of radios that we need, so 8 mobile units and then the 12 portable units, which we'll be getting the other 10, 6 and 4, respectively now. We got the other 2 to get.
Any other questions or discussion?
If a major incident occurs and you have to activate everybody, is there enough radios to cover all the vehicles and everybody with this purchase?
Yes.
Okay, as long as we got it
That was the
covered.
reason behind the 12, we have 12 officers, including reserves, but we had, if we had those down, something happens, so we.
Especially if we have another triple hurricane and everything.
That's it. Correct.
This is already budgeted, this doesn't need approval, this is a discussion.
No, this is a purchase.
Yeah, this was not budgeted, it fits within their budget because they made cuts in other areas, so it doesn't bust our budget, but it was not specifically budgeted. Well, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we purchase the second set of radios.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Eckert, second from Commissioner Basso, to purchase the second set of radios for the police department. Any further
To be
discussion?
second half, not second set, second half.
Second half of the first set.
Yes.
However, staff would like to word that. I shouldn't say it that way. How would you like to word that?
Well, not the second half, is that what you said?
Yeah, well, no, it'd be the second part of the original need, to fulfill the need.
Right, this is the pre-programmed second purchase of radios. The first purchase was in last fiscal year, this is the second half.
Yeah, the way I said it made it sound like we were purchasing extra ones that were going to go on the shelf.
No, the idea was to add an extra deal. One of the things, I'm not trying to persuade anybody's mind, I'm sure it won't, but one of the things we want to do in the future is we bought 4 police cars at one time because 4 were all dying at the same time. And we want to phase in the vehicles in maybe 1 or 2 years. But that would just be a replacement. We pull one off the line, put this in. So what we were talking about is actually adding, no, we're not planning to add necessarily unless we have some increase in our staffing. But we do want to get new vehicles much more often, singularly, as time goes on. So we're not at one time buying 4 vehicles.
I think 8 or 10 years ago, we went over this very issue. The reason we wound up being where we're at is because we had better purchasing power, buying 4 or 5 vehicles at a time than we wanted to come. And we also put a motion on the books to allocate, and I think it was $25,000 per vehicle, $100,000.
So we have.
So the money was there, so when that purchase period time came,
Exactly.
we could do that. Now, whether we've been putting the money into a fund for that, that I do not know. But it was moved and decided to do that.
I know we intended to, like, the original journey we did. That's one of the things we're do.
But what you're saying is, we should budget for a police car every single year.
Yeah.
Every 4 to 5 years.
Yeah,
So
so
we're not,
nice,
so,
I had one time, I had about 4 one time.
I agree.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to purchase the remaining,
Second and final.
okay, second and final batch of police radios, thank you.
And as long as that does not include an extra radio on a second one.
Not including the second, or the extra radio that was requested. That motion was from Commissioner Eckert, seconded by Commissioner Basso. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 7C, approval of engineering contract for miscellaneous assignments.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, this has had a couple of comments made, but I'm not sure you understand it clearly. The way our engineering firm that we retain in our city engineer works is that they want to have on their books an indication from this city that we are willing to pay for miscellaneous services as they come to their attention, they request the service. Heather, Mr. Rutledge, they've said it earlier this afternoon, it's really like having a purchase order, if you would purchase against the standing purchase order. They would have the purchase order approved by the city. So when I call the city engineer and say, we've got a stormwater problem over here, we'd like to come look at, they would have hours that can switch to bill us according to that standing purchase order. It is not something we would send 48 hours to do them immediately, but when we incur the cost, they would send us a bill and it would come off the 48,000 pre-approved.
This is paper, this is boilerplate.
Yeah.
I believe so too.
It's.
Procedural.
I sign one of these every year with my account. Same thing, they basically need a work order, so they can do it.
Exactly.
I have no problem with it. You need a motion?
Yes, please.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion approved from Commissioner Basso, second from Commissioner Rutledge to approve the engineering contract for miscellaneous assignments. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7D, approval of contract to produce the annual Stress Buster 5K.
Mr. Mayor, member of the commission, annually the city on Christmas Eve has a 5K, they call it the Stress Buster, I'm not sure why. But the person who has put this program together, at least the last 3 or 4 years, has been former Commissioner Fresca, and is she behind me somewhere? No. No, well, and she has produced the agreement you have for the firm that has been managing on behalf of the city for the last 3 or 4 years. We've done it very well. Last year, we actually made $10,000 on the program. Yeah,
That's after expenses.
wow. Ron Sue's wife, 23,000. But anyway, no, it's 23,000. For one I thought. But anyway, that produced a significant revenue stream for us. Commissioner Fresca was not paid for the process of putting this together. And so simply approving the contract for this independent firm to run it for us. They've done a very good job. Each year we have them, and we would like to have them come back. Next time.
I know, come all the way down to you.
We all know that,
Can't make this stuff up. I believe in this project, and we should continue to go forward for it. I would like to know who's going to be the point person on this.
Commissioner Fresca, former Commissioner Fresca, has always been, last 3 or 4 years, been the point person. She organizes, sign up and everything. Really, the company does most of the work, to tell you the truth. They advertise it, they get the t-shirts, they get the awards, they do all the organizing for it.
Has she expressed an interest in continuing to do that?
She'd like to,
Okay.
yeah.
I help her with it too.
Oh,
I
okay.
helped her this last year, so I help her with it next year too. But they pretty much do everything. We just kind of volunteer.
I guess what I was asking is who's the point person of the city who's going to support?
She would be the point person of the city. And if you're looking for somebody actually on the payroll,
Yeah,
probably
I am.
Dominic and myself.
Okay, that's fine.
But she does it, and the company does it in such a way that we have very little need to interact.
Not just
It's 4 years old, it's pretty routine, it goes back.
I think if we do something of this magnitude, somebody at the city should be responsible. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion from Commissioner Basso and a second from Commissioner Eckert to approve the contract producing annual Trustbuster 5K with Mrs. Drager as our city point person. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We are looking forward to that. That is a wonderful event. And now we get to one of the best things, perhaps, on tonight's agenda, the Charter Review Committee recommendations. I spoke with Wayne Bishop, the committee chair, and I want to take a moment and thank Wayne and Todd Preston, Mike Woods, Paulette Smith, and Tom Wilson for all stepping up to be on this committee. We mentioned earlier about people stepping up and volunteering for things. This was a big thing. It was a big and important thing, and some very knowledgeable and good people stepped up and put some really serious, hard, thoughtful work into this, and we appreciate it very much. So thank you to each and every one of them. We have before us an opportunity, what's that? To move forward and to get some good things done legally on the city. I want to give an opportunity also for our city administrator and our city attorney to comment on this if you so desire.
Let me just comment, Mr. Mayor, on the process. The committee met, I believe, 5 times, and they were, I think it's fair to say, quite pleased with the previous event, the previous charter that was given to the voters in 2016. Although it failed, they felt it was a good charter to rely on as a foundation document. They then asked the city attorney to bring it up to date, so to speak, with the common laws of the state and any other things, including they wanted to make 3 specific changes. One are what we call the technical changes. These are the ones that bring it current with state law, remove inconsistencies or contradictions, or anything like that. That's item number 1. Item number 2 was to permit the city administrator to have the right to hire and fire. Right now, it's the prerogative of the commission to do that. As you all know, we've had potential issues with that in the form of federal law being potentially violated, which is not good. And then the third choice was to extend the terms of the commission from 2 years to 4 years. The option that the committee really gave this commission 2 options. One is to adopt the updated 2016 version, brought up to today's standards, containing all of those changes that I mentioned as one document and one vote. The citizens have the opportunity to say yes or no. The other, if we didn't have that, was to give you the priorities of the committee, that being the legislative changes, the odds and ends, the inconsistencies, etc., as the first priority. The second priority was to grant city administrative authority to hire and fire, and the third priority, the 4-year terms for the commissioners. They're suggesting if you don't like the first idea of the entire contract, the second idea would be 3 votes, 3 yes and no's on the ballot. First one dealing with technical changes, second the city administrators, hire and fire, and third with the terms of the commission. So you really have a choice of what you want to do. You can do, again, all of the charter as written as a new document, or you can have three questions that simply modify the existing charter as it is today with those three items. And they've listed them in the priority center. So if you don't, it's up to you. How do you want, you can go for one, two, or all three of those choices. And I think I'll let the city attorney, because he did tremendous help in putting this thing together, explain the legal aspects. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So let me ask you to talk about the legal aspects of what we're talking about. So the charter is really the foundation document that it used to be, I'll steal your speech a little bit. It used to be a document that would be permissive. It would allow the commission to do things that are granted by the voters. But the laws have changed, and the customs have changed, the mandates of the state have changed in such a way that it now becomes very restrictive. You can do just about what you can do. I'm really practicing law here. You really can do anything this the state and federal government would permit now, unless it's prohibited by the charter. So the charter really is a restrictive document. You're recommending the voters take away your rights, is what it amounts to. So you have to be very careful. The whole philosophy is done 180 degrees. And that's exactly what Scott wanted to tell you, which I can get a chance. So, anyway.
Yeah, yes, he's correct, and just quickly, the change occurred when home rule was adopted in the late 60s, early 70s. You may have heard people use the word home rule in relation to cities. Prior to home rule going into effect, charters were very large documents because you only had the authority that the state legislature granted to you in the charter. So everything you wanted to do as a city had to be delegated to you in the charter. You want a police department, it's delegated to the charter. You want to be able to have a water department, it's delegated to the charter. Home rule switched it around to say that local governments can do, municipalities can do anything that a state can do unless it's restricted by federal law, state law, county charter. And although they don't mention it, it's also restricted by your own charter. So what used to be a grant of authority, it says you have the authority to do this. Once home rule came into effect, now that's how you have to do it. If it stayed in charter. And actually, back in the 70s when home rule came into effect, there was a handful of things that stayed in the charter that could not be changed unless the voters changed it. Everything else, which was a restriction on authority in the charter, actually became a nullity. The charter should have been purged of all these provisions back in the 70s, and a lot of charters weren't. And what happens is the things that should have come out of the charter stayed in the charter for years, decades, and all of a sudden people say, well, there's a charter, we got to do it that way. And it became a restriction. So that's what Lee was talking about, where you don't need authority in your charter to do something. You look to the charter to say, not can we do it, but does it tell us how we got to do it? And if it's not addressed in the charter, then as long as it's not something preempted by federal law, state law, or the Volusia County charter, we have the authority to do it. And you get to decide as a commission how to do it. Whereas if it's in the charter, you have to follow what the charter says. So that's a kind of a quick synopsis of that. But what the Charter Review Committee did is look at two things. One, as Lee said, I took the 2016 charter and updated it, to address some issues in there. Because actually in 2018, I did some revisions to that because the commission talked about it in 2018. One of those things was removing the word city manager, putting it in city administrator. But we also had to update the implementation of the 4-year terms to the current years. But I kind of cleaned it up, updated it, so that was option 1. And that is basically taking the 2016 charter review document, making some tweaks to it, updating it to 2022, and going forward with a whole new charter. That is a very easy, the next step legally that we need to do if the commission wants to proceed is we have to submit the charter question to the voters. So in that, we have to come up with a ballot title, a ballot summary, and then the question, yes, in favor of the new charter, no one opposed to the charter. if you do a new charter, it's pretty simple to ballot summary, to write it. You do one item, and, you know, we'll come up with a ballot title, and we'll come up, you have 75 words to do a ballot summary. The other thing that I did was took our current charter and tried to address the things that I thought needed to be addressed to almost say, let's submit the least amount we have to the voters to address some of the big concerns. And they're broken up into the 3 items that Lee mentioned. And so that's the current charter with revisions to areas where you have conflicts. You know, we talked about conflict. You know, you have I think there's a provision that you will have staggered 2-year terms, but your elections are only in odd years. Virtually impossible to accommodate. And so there's some other inconsistencies in there like that. That's the number one, and that's the thing that the Charter Review Committee, they recommended the new charter, 2016 updated 22. That's their first recommendation. The other option is the current charter with these tweaks, and if you wanted to break them out by question, one that they would recommend most, submitted to the voters, is let's clean up all these technicality issues, these legal issues. That's the number one thing they put forward. The next thing would be to the hiring and firing of the city manager's authority, city administrator's authority to regarding employment issues. And then the third one in terms of ranking, the least important one, I guess you could say, if I'll put it that way, would be going from a 2-year to 4-year. That one will be much more work to present to the voters because you don't have one question, you have at least 3 questions. And we're going to have to break it up, and we're going to have to break out the provisions that we're changing in the charter to fit into one of those 3 questions. And we're going to have to address those changes in at least those 3 questions. Just a little bit more work. So now you have 3 ballot questions as opposed to 1. So they recommended you the one with a whole new charter, basically taking the work that the 2016 Charter Review Committee did, they updated it, they thought that was a good document with the tweaks we put forward. Their other option is take the current charter, and those are the ranking of the priority of the 3 things.
Thank you, Phil, for that introduction to this. Thank you again to the Charter Review Committee for their presentation. My goal for tonight was simply to get those summaries from these knowledgeable people, to get the charter into the hands of the commission, to open it up for comment. We do have some comments from the citizens, and then to put it on the special meeting after we have a chance to discuss it tonight. I don't think this is something we need to make choices on, the same night we get to look at it. So let's start with the commission, and Commissioner Basso wants to weigh in.
I've been through this process for a while. There's a salad on the Charter Review committees. My personal preference would just be to do the one because I would vote for it because I understand all of it. I think it's the way we operate anyway, so why not say it? My second thing is the 2 things that were lightning rods that I believe kept the issue from passing the ballot. One was the issue of the city manager, city administrator. The other was the 4-year term. So removing those 2 things from it, and giving it 3 separate items, gives you the best chance of doing the cleanup, boilerplate part of it that needs to be done. Shouldn't have an issue. And there's a chance that both of the other 2 are also voted for, but at least it separates so where we can do some of the work that needs to be done. So my suggestion would be to do, although it's more work, I would do the 3 ballot.
And that's the same thing I was going to suggest.
I am also in agreement. I've thought all along, I don't actually treat my dogs badly, but if I was a dog in my house, I'm good at cutting off the dog's tail in an inch at a time to make progress. In politics, it's hard to make progress, and we've bumped up against this numerous times and gotten rebuffed and gotten nowhere because we've had everything, all our eggs in one basket. So I was hoping to take a bit of a different approach this time. The Charter Review Committee has given us that option. So that's exciting to me. Now, we do have comments from the floor. Charlene Bishop, you had the first card with me.
I just want to make a statement that, you notice my husband not here tonight to present us. The reason for that is because while he served on the committee and he was in favor of the committee, in light of things that happened at last month's meeting, he is totally opposed to giving anybody in this town more power than they already have. He was a nay vote on presenting this before the commission, and he will be very strongly campaigning against the 4-year terms.
Thank you. Alan Cook.
Coach 782, Coach Lane. One of the big reasons I'm staying here tonight is we had put it on a ballot when before Dr. Bell was just coming in and everything else, that it would always be a city administrator, never a city manager, because we wanted to keep control. You see, when I was on the commission at that time, we wanted to have control. It's doing something wrong or anything else, but I'm just saying, to put all this onto one person, it's not right. That's why we have a commission, so we can make decisions, discuss things, and figure out where we're going in this situation. So my thing is, I just want to make sure, with all these changes, this and that and everything else, we are not moving from that, because that was on the ballot and voted for to keep us. So I want to make sure it stays where it's at and does not change. And my thing is, the only thing that I'm getting into a little bit is the hiring and firing. As many years I've been involved in the city, when anybody was hired or basically fired, the commission made that decision, not one person. So that way, Rick can say, no, I don't think that's right, he's done this right or whatever. Or when we hire somebody. Because it's kind of been like we're looking for help, and we're starting to get help, but now we're getting rid of help too, because it wasn't the right person. All I'm saying is, do not lose control, because that's where we go. We vote for you, and we want to make sure you represent us.
Appreciate that. We don't have any other specific comments, so I'm going to address one of the things you mentioned, Cookie. This step with giving the authority to hire and fire to the city administrator, we're not going to change the name of the city administrator. A name is just a name. But this is one step towards, like you say, relinquishing power from the commission to the administrator. There's pros and cons to that. We do lose that control in the elected body. But we put the actions under the professional city administrator who can do those things privately and professionally as opposed to doing them here in public forum, which I think has a lot of benefits. There are some cons to it too, and I understand Charlene Wayne's reservations on that. We spoke about it earlier, and your reservations. And my reservations. I have reservations about it too. It is a relinquishing of power to staff from the commission. But it's before us, we're discussing it openly now. It's here on the table. So do your research and talk to people who know, and we'll hopefully make an informed decision. And then the citizens will decide. So I just wanted to throw that
What
out.
I'm trying to say is, as a business owner for some 60 years, I made all the decisions, who gets hired, who gets fired, and everything else. But in this situation, it's a situation where we have all of us involved for city. This is a city, not a private company.
I understand.
So we have to be very careful. And give a person a review time to be able to review disagrees with what's happening. That's all I'm saying.
I understand. Any other comments from the commission or from staff?
Giving, city administrator the authority to hire and fire, would that also include department heads?
The way it's worded now, yes. But that was a reservation I had as well. Either just department heads, one by most, for me, the most difficult one to relinquish was the chief of police. I think that's one of the most public figures in the city. Public works is a much more technical thing, administration, much more technical thing. But while police is a very technical job, it's much more in the public eye and almost belongs more in a political body. Many police chiefs have run for office and are elected, that kind of thing. It tends to be more political position. So that was definitely one of my reservations, but we'll get there. So this is what I wanted to do tonight, to make this presentation. People always say we're doing things behind the scenes. We're trying to put this out in front of you for a length of time. All of the charter review committee meetings were open to the public. Some people attended, and we appreciate that. All the minutes are available for anybody. It's all public record. This meeting is to inform y'all. So thank you for being here. Please stop saying we're doing it behind your backs, because we're not. We want this to be exactly, we want the city to be exactly what the citizens want it to be.
Mayor, I just like to say, your choice is not to pick one of the two options that came from the charter review. This is their recommendation. You have the ability to modify their recommendation if it's the desire to say, the city administrator and the police chief will be hired by the commission. You can do that.
Thank you.
So you have the discretion to do that. I think their other recommendation early on, with, I think the first meeting, they indicated a desire to have the charter question on the November ballot, which gives us, when we have to submit it,
Last day of July.
the last day of July, we have to have the ballot to supervisor elections for the general election. So assume we have no special meeting called, you will have June and July meetings, because it's an ordinance you have to adopt the ballot, the language for the ballot title, ballot summary. So that gives us April and May to work on it. Now, you can call special meetings, obviously, and you can crunch them together if you need to see fit. But I just want to know, there is a time frame on this, but you do have a few months to work on it, to come up with the language you want to start about. So that's the time frame we're working on.
Thank you for that clarification, that outline. I wanted that to be part of this presentation, and I had forgotten. So thank you for cluing us in on that. And for the clarification that we can tweak this any way we want to as a commission. So without further requests for comment, we'll move on in the agenda to public forum. I would like to say, there's some, oh, man, I apologize. It's not public forum, sorry about that. It's quasi judicial hearing, certificate of appropriateness. I'll ask the commission, are there any ex parte conversations that need to be disclosed? None. None. I have none, so there are no ex parte. We have all received the packet from the Historic Preservation Board. Are there any questions or anything, any discussion on the items? Then do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the certificate of appropriateness for 451 West Main Street, 376 West Pennsylvania Avenue, 691 North Summit Avenue, 249 North Lakeview Drive, and 407 West Pennsylvania Avenue.
Second.
294.
I'm sorry,
294.
294 instead of 249?
I'll correct that.
Okay, 294 instead of 249.
Second, with the amend, to respect the wishes of the historic preservation board suggestions.
So to approve as recommended by the historic preservation. Do I have a motion from Commissioner Becker, seconded by Commissioner Basso, to approve the certificate of appropriatenesses for these addresses, based on the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Board? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Morales, for being here this evening, just in case. I do appreciate it. He's always here to back up there, and I shouldn't say back up, to explain things we might need to know. We always appreciate that. Now we get to public forum, right? Good deal. In public forum, one of the things that I've noticed over the past few months, trying to get better at this, is there often when people step up to the mic and begin to speak to us, we tend to interrupt them with questions. I would like to ask the commission to let them finish their 3 minutes and then ask questions, not interrupt them in the middle, if possible. I'm not trying to squelch your comments or questions, but just to try and stop people from being interrupted.
Ask us.
Yeah, I understand that. I will give deference to you all. I'm just asking for you to give deference to the speakers as well. And also, just ask you to contemplate. Sometimes we get hit by things that tweak us a little bit, but ask yourself if if engaging the speaker will make this a better meeting. So sometimes it just doesn't. So keep that in mind. We always do want to hear from anybody, any citizen who wants to speak to us. We always want to hear what you have to say. We do listen. We really do. So I will go through these one at a time as they were submitted. Charlene Bishop.
Trying to help out a little bit.
You have a
Charlie Bishop, Euclid Avenue. At the February commission meeting, the city administrator mentioned an experimental project conducted through the water department. The cost to the city was $40,000. I was very curious as to what he was referring to, so I started checking into this experiment. I found out that it was called the Pilot Program for New CL2 System Skidded, and was billed to the city at the rate of $4,000 a month. It appears it was started in November 2019 and was billed for the next 10 months. Beyond this, there does not seem to be any other information on the project. I contacted the former mayor and the former commissioner. It appears the project never got approval from the commission. I have also requested any data collected on said project. Was it a success or a failure? And what did we learn from the $40,000 project? There is no data in City Hall. They also can't say who approved this $40,000 expenditure. Were the payments spread out over a 10-month period to avoid having to seek commissioner approval?
Thank you. I've had several conversations about this in the break on meeting. Not so much, because I have weighed in this in my mind as to whether this would be good to address. And we do need to address this. I've had some conversations starting into it, and we're looking further, and we are trying to find some information out. It is a very reasonable and important question, and it's not being ignored. That's about all I can say right now.
Oh, I know, it's
I
not
don't
been ignored, it's fine.
appreciate that.
I know that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
did everybody understand that all took place in 2020 and not now?
Well, that's a good point.
2019.
It's 2020 and not now, but it does bear looking into, but it is past.
I just want to make sure we have the time frame correct. I'm a little sensitive to that.
I understand. Thank you.
And that's one thing I would answer, or to her question about breaking it up into $4,000 monthly. That would not be done to circumvent the bidding process or the approval process. Usually the cost, you look at the value of the contract. And so if it's over, if you do a 1-year contract is a total of $40,000, it's gotta go through that. You do a 2-year contract for $40,000, you still have to go through the approval as a $40,000 contract. So breaking it up like that, it should not, it would not avoid going through the approval process just because you broke it up into 10 $4,000 payments as opposed to 220 or 140.
But was it a contract or was it a piece of equipment?
Well, I don't know anything about it. I'm just saying
Exactly,
that
that's what I'm saying.
breaking it up.
No, those things.
I'm just saying breaking it up wouldn't legally circumvent what our process is for approval, because just so they broke it up. into
But it
10.
would if it was a piece of equipment.
No, still would, it's still a
The city
$40,000.
never buys stuff on credit like that. Piece of
Well,
equipment, they was.
But his point is valid.
Okay, it
That
is, you're right.
if it was done for that reason, then it was inappropriate.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that's not an appropriate way to avoid the.
I'm saying it
I'm
would-
sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, you would still have to go through the approval process
Thank
to
you.
decide. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, we have to go through the approval process regardless of.
I'm just angry. I
Commissioner
misunderstood.
Trafford, did you want to weigh in?
All these things that we've been finding out about tax expenditures and projects and everything is the reason why the staff has been working hard on updating our purchasing policies and spending policies and stuff like that.
No, I understand that, but some things
The
just.
more they do digging in and researching and finding out stuff, the more changes they realize they need to make.
Mr. Best?
Did they have a consensus date when it started?
Yeah, November 2019, and then it moved forward for 10 months.
November 2019?
Yes.
10 months.
I've got all the paperwork right here.
Do we have the
All the
minutes?
invoices.
Do we have the minutes from both meetings, either side of it?
Yeah.
I looked through
We
all
can't
minutes,
find
yeah, from 2019, I looked into 2018,
No,
2020,
no,
I
no
didn't see.
mention. Yeah, I don't remember.
That's what the former mayor and commissioner said, it never came before the commission.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers it.
Yeah.
What
We're
this,
still investigating because you're right, we should be able to have an answer to that. It's hard because staff all, is new since.
oh, it's,
But,
it's being investigated.
yeah, we're investigating for that.
Mhm.
Flo Fowler? Ms. Fowler, if you could, when you get to the podium, if you could state your name and address. I'm sorry, let me just distract you while you're walking.
Good evening. Good evening, girl.
Good evening, Ms. Fowler.
Good evening again. My name is Florence Fowler, I go by Flo Fowler, and I live at 442 Jackson Street here in Lake Helen. And I just wanted to address what is the proper protocol for getting in touch, or who is my commissioner for my zone, and how do I get in touch with him? Because evidently I don't know how to get in touch with my commissioner when I need for someone to speak for me, represent me.
I'm your commissioner, and my information is on the website. I'm happy to provide you with my cell phone, my email. I can come by and talk to you anytime. More than happy to.
I just want to know that because I sent you an email and I never received a response from you.
I don't recall seeing an email come through, so I apologize if I've overlooked it, but I will go back and check.
Okay,
Absolutely, and I'd like to speak to you more about that.
I appreciate that.
That also doesn't preclude you from contacting any commissioner.
Well, that's what I want to know, what was the proper protocol,
Thank
like I said, because we are concerned for our community, and I'm very active in it, and so is everyone in our community, and we just haven't seen anyone. The last one we seen was like Kelly, and I never remember seeing him at all in my community, and that's not anything else.
Appreciate you.
I guess it's on the same subject.
Yes.
Speaking of contacting commissioners, if anybody has a hard time getting hold of me on my cell phone, my service provider is Consumer Cellular, and I think they forgot to pay their bill to whoever runs their trunk line. Because it's a system-wide problem that Consumer Cellular is having, that nobody can make or receive calls through Consumer Cellular at this time. So, You can send me text messages, I can get them, you can call my house phone number, 386-228-2404, and I can answer you that way until Consumer Cellular fixes the problem. I can't receive calls on the cell phone.
That's all the yellow cards I have, the rest. Yes,
I didn't fill out my card.
well, then get up there and fill one out, don't get you
All
another.
right, promise I'll fill it out.
Sure. Please state your name and address for the record.
Alan Cook, 792 Oak Tree Lane. What I'd like to ask our city administrator to give us a little report on Virginia Avenue and find out where we stand on it. Almost a month and a half ago, they were gonna come do the test. Then they came when we were not there and were supposed to. And then I haven't heard anything more about the test in the low area. And the guy's already putting the water lines in, he's already putting the road base down, and I'd like to have a report of where we're going.
That's a reasonable request. Mr. Administrator, would you like to weigh in?
I will tell you that I just received the email today from Universal, the testing agency. What Chris was talking about, we actually did 2 series of tests. I'll back up. The contract requires tests to be done by the contractor using independent testing laboratory, and they did that. What Cookie came to me and convinced me, because of his years of construction experience, he's knowledgeable in the field and the procedure. So I took it upon myself to actually initiate another set of tests, this time for soil compaction and type of soil in the field. And they passed the test. The thing that Cookie then pointed out was that they took the tests, if you will, Virginia has a valley to it. They took the tests on the high points of the road. So we went back recently and actually they took another set of tests at our request, but again, they went on the high points. And I said, no, we want the low points. So the low point test, the second time they done, just came back today, and they did pass the test. So 98% compaction, and they did match the compaction 98%. And I'll send you the email.
And they're gonna guarantee that, right?
But
They know they're gonna guarantee that, right?
Well, it's an independent lab.
It's independent, all right.
And you know, I have to really convince me that, you know, we need to be more vigilant than the contract required. And we did. But now we've had, instead we used a separate testing lab than the first testing lab. But again, they're all registered engineers, they've got their own PE license on the line, they did it according to the specs. And so we've really got 3 tests of the same thing, albeit 2 of them were in the wrong location, in our opinion, but they have all come back with the proper specification of the contract, which is 98% compaction. And you know, at some point, you just have to say it was okay. I just can't justify spending any more money doing it. We're just gonna have the same result.
Excuse me, in other words, were they done where I told you those stakes were?
We
Did the stakes I pointed out, they did in those stakes?
Yes, at 12, at the bottom of the valley. Because I actually, and let me tell you how dedicated I am to Cookie's request. The second time Universal did it, they did the high points, as I said. And so the road said, no, that's not right, that's not what we asked you to do down here. And we actually told them, you know, these stations along the road. So in frustration, the guy comes out and a couple of days later, calls me from the site and said, would you please come show me where you want these things so we get it right this time? And so I did. And we pointed out exactly where they needed to test. And that's where they tested it and it came out okay. So,
I just want to support what Cookie was doing because he pays attention to what's going on. He brought it to my attention earlier. I went out there and had the same concerns we did. Did you ever see any material removed and replaced in order to change the the end byproduct, because the ground was definitely pumping and there was too much moisture in it. And yes, could it squeeze the moisture out after a while? Possibly. Oftentimes that water has to be removed, sometimes it happens through drought, sometimes it just has to be through well.
We know that. But the whole problem was, what annoyed me was, the soil that was there is better than what he trucked in, clay material.
Gotcha.
And as of 3 weeks ago, I drove in there with my truck, I go in there every couple of days, check things. And that ground was still cracking, that much when you drove over it, like
It's
you did.
still pumping?
Yes. That's all I'm saying, because I just want to let them know that, heck of a job, buddy.
I will say, I had much the same experience. Cookie and I had several conversations about it. I went
Yes.
down there as well as the city administrator and looked at it. But we have to do this independently. We can't do this together. No two commissioners can be there discussing it. But we've looked at that. I'm sure the other commissioners have looked at it as well. I don't know how much. It's, of all the roads in the city, that road is right smack down into a swamp. It is by far one of the worst possible places you can imagine to put in a road. So I appreciate Cookie's concerns with it, because, man, how do you, it's like putting in a suspension bridge almost more than just putting in a road. It's hopefully our engineer's design, which is what the tests were designed to do, is to provide what the engineer's design is. It may not be as good as your design would have been, and I'm not being facetious about it, it may not have been. But it is what we contracted for, and they have met that standard, and we really can't push for more than that. I've been personally just praying that it works. If 5 years from now, we may be saying, Cookie was a prophet more than a test.
I'm going to go skiing, that's all, I'll go skiing. Just one thing, Rick, just quick, and that is, I found the dirt when they dug it out where they put it. And let me tell you something, what they did in there, Rick, is cut the stumps off, filled right over top of it. Because when they dug that out, there's as much stumps in that dirt as there was dirt.
Well, one thing
Just to let you know.
one thing that the engineer said, or somebody said, there's nearly 10 feet of muck there, and we could not get all the way down on that. So he kind of punted and said, we'll go down 4 feet over the whole length of the road, and he kind of said, we'll pray that's enough.
And put the membrane down.
Put a membrane down and work with that in mind. That's where we are. So thank you, Mr. Cook, for your effective and knowledgeable eye on that. Really do appreciate it.
Good thing the contractor hates me, so we're all right.
We're also going to be back into that area in the near future because of the ground springs behind the houses up the hill from the road that's causing all that saturation down into the road.
Yeah, we may. Okay, commission reports by zone. I want to start this off myself. No, actually, we'll just start with zone one. And I'll finish up. Zone one, did you have anything? Zone two?
Yes, I happened to go to the Chamber of Commerce Crystal Apple Awards for our teachers. We had 2 teachers from the Lake Helen area. One of them, I got the wrong one, I got Galaxy News. One was from IU Charter School. Amy Dalton was one of the recommended was a nominee for the Crystal Apple Award. And the other one was Sarah Smith from Volusia Pines Elementary School. Amongst all the schools in West Volusia, 4 were chosen for Crystal Apple Awards, and Sarah Smith from Volusia Pines Elementary School got it from the city of Lake, from the school in Lake Helen. So I really think we should appreciate our teachers and all the efforts that they did and put in for our students, especially all the after school or after class activities that they do to keep the kids' minds influenced on the educational process.
Feel free.
The only thing I wanted to talk about was, if we can, I don't have anything to report, but these, the special meetings that's coming up, the workshops, if we can get a timely, discussion, agenda, as far as what the bullet items are, that, we can all, our citizens and the board, can come to the meeting prepared to make decisions, and move forward.
I think I understand your request. Yeah, you want to have at least an outline to be starting discussions in the community about things that come up, even if we don't have the specific backup data like we always get. Just for knowledge sake, there's a packet on tonight's meeting. It's 100 and I've forgotten how many pages. And that takes a while to prepare. We're used to scraping that together. We pulled things together just in the last few days to finalize it. But that leaves us just a couple of days. So I understand what you're saying. It's nice to be able to discuss things with the public for weeks at a time rather than days.
And I wasn't sure when we discussed the charter review, if we collectively, as a board, were in general wanting to go in one direction or another, in other words, everything together, or in three individuals. I got the sense from head nods, et cetera, that the majority of the board wishes to go in three. I think if we make that decision tonight, that way the meeting that we have to discuss it all, I think we could do a better job of getting to you.
I appreciate that suggestion, but I'm gonna push it back and say, you think like a businessman that gets things done. And I'm trying to bite the dog's tail off an inch at a time. And I do want to get, that's kind of where I want to get to, but
If we've got time, I'm good.
yeah, I think we should take the time. We've got about 2 or 3 meetings to work it out, which isn't much, but I think we'll get there.
That's all.
A little pushback, I apologize. Don't need to be confrontational during your zone report. For my portion of the zone report, I wanted to say that we have looked at our water meters. Water has been a major problem and discussion topic in the community. And one of the first things, I think, thinking like a businessman, one of the first things we want to do is stop the bleeding. And that being the fact that a bunch of our meters aren't working properly. We got to fix that. We're hemorrhaging and we got to fix it. I don't think we can, we couldn't pull it all together to make that a solid presentation tonight. I couldn't pull it all together to make it a solid presentation tonight. So I would like for the special meeting us to be thinking towards meters. I think we need to make a major change. We need to move towards a new type of meter and ultimately change out the entire city. Perhaps my hope would be to do that all in one lump contract. And we meaning Lee did it.
Usually ARPA money.
And maybe ARPA money, maybe a loan. There's several ways we could go, depending on how quickly we could get it done. And then we called the producer of the meters and he said, oh no, we can't fill an order for 1,500. We could maybe give you a pallet, which is how many, 125 or
192.
192. So we're a victim of the supply chain issues. And it's because they can't get chips. And that's probably not going to get any better. So again, in order to make progress, I think we're going to end up having to cut the dog's tail off an inch at a time. But we've got to start chewing on that dog again to stop the bleeding on our water bills. So anyway, I wanted to bring that to the special meeting. That's part of my report. Mr. Administrator, did you want to add to that part?
If we're going to put in a special meeting, I'll just save it for that. There it is. Commissioner Rutledge came up with some calculations that said they're losing about 10% of our revenue. We did some guesstimations and we thought we were going to lose 2%. So I have to acknowledge she was absolutely correct because we did an Excel with the actual consumption of the city and our billing, and it is about 10%. So that's about $80,000 a quarter we're losing. And that's a significant number. We're looking at $500,000 to replace everything and a new radio system. And that's a significant number. That includes installation and stuff, so you don't have to worry about extra staffing like that. But it is a significant problem that we really haven't attacked or attempted to attack since we started going bad in 2017. And we purchased in 2015. And I would tell you too, that it's not a Lake Helen problem. I think I mentioned before, the Collier County has 10,000 in their outlet. So it is a problem with the design. The unit is not being sold anymore, they pulled it off the market, and they are replacing them, albeit slowly, again with the supply chain problem. We send them 50 and they send us 50, and at that rate it'll be, I don't know how many years, too many before we get them completed, really changed out. And I will tell you, when you have something like this happen to you, you lose faith in the product.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hesitate even, we haven't done any numbers with them, but we had Census as a manufacturer before 2015, when we picked back down in contract in Collier County. And I'm not sure why we abandoned Census and went to the new one. But the Census is now, they're the leader of choice with the county, with Orange City, with Sanford. We are piggybacking, at least the numbers we have are piggybacking off the Sanford contract. And their calculations are that we will need, as a package, meters, installation, radio read system, antennas, the whole thing, $504,000. And I did call them up because the mayor and I discussed how we're going to finance this thing. And we had several options, obviously, but we're trying to hold back on the American Rescue for things that we really need. And if we don't need it, because I weren't going to recommend using them. And they, if we could get them very soon, we could go to the bank. For Commissioner Connell has been suggesting for some time, the interest rates are very, very low right now. And the interest we pay the bank is tax-free to the bank, so they give us an even better interest rate than anybody else would be able to do. But to do that, we'd have to have the 1,500 fairly quick, because the clock is running. And they said, they can't get us the meters. In 6 months, they may be able to give us the 1,500, but they can't guarantee that. The problem is that the chips, they do think by the end of this calendar year, the chip problem will be solved, at least that's the rumor that they are working on. So things look better at the end of the year. But that gives us the opportunity then to explore a third option, and that are grants. There are a lot of grants that are available for water projects. And we've started investigating the grant opportunities we have. And that, if we have to wait, it'll take 6 months to get a grant from the state. So that timing works out well rather than going to the bank. And some of the grants are even forgivable, and the portions of the loan are forgivable if it's a loan, which is even better. But anyway, so if we have some time to work on it, but we really need to, for what we're losing, it's getting very expensive. It has been all along.
Yeah, so, back to me. So, if it's at $8,000 a quarter potential loss that we're seeing, my thinking was to spend 6 months trying to get a grant, maybe being unsuccessful, but trying to get a grant, it's hard to make up for that in a lower interest rate. When you're talking about $160,000. But if we can't get the meters anyway, that quickly, maybe we can kind of do it. The other thing I wanted to throw in my report is I'd like for y'all as commissioners and staff to be thinking towards that American Rescue Plan money. We already have about $700,000 in hand. 704,000 in hand of that, and we've got another 704,000 coming. And we need to decide how we want to spend that. Initially, we have been told that we're going to have to spend it on certain things, but that has become totally unrestricted. We just have to spend it. We all know that water is a big issue. We've got major problems. So I would like to put some towards it, but I don't necessarily think we should put all towards it. That's a matter of commission decision. So be thinking on that. Go ahead.
Well, two questions. One, have we explored the legal issue of the meters that clearly are not only our problem, but are our own?
Yeah, we piggybacked the Collier County contract. And when we piggyback, you have to take a contract, you get. They are under warranty, that's why they're replacing them, but that's what their obligation is to replace them. And they're.
Replace them with the identical meter? No.
Replace it with a replacement meter. And, there's not anything in there that says there's a particular, they got to replace it within 14 days or whatever. We're technically supposed to test them, send the test result in the meter back, or if we don't do that, then they will test them and technically charge us for the test and then replace the meter. We are not testing them, but they're also not charging us for the test either, so I'm not sure. What Lee and I have tried to do, there is an option that the manufacturer has to pay money instead of replacement, but that's at the manufacturer's option. Lee and I have discussed the idea of broaching that with them, but we really don't want to do that until this commission makes a decision we're changing the meter. Because if the decision is not made to change to a whole new set of meters, then we're better off replacing the broken meters we have on the program. I've reached out to Collier County Legal Department to see, if they got 10,000 meters that are broken, were y'all doing anything? Legal Department didn't know anything about it, and Lee's been talking with somebody, a contact he has in the utility department to try to see if they are kind of on the same replacement program, are they facing the same issues? I have a friend who is in the underground utility business, and when I mentioned that to him, he goes, oh yeah, like as Lee said, we're not in a unique situation. There's smaller meters that all around the country. I think, I did a little Google search on it, and I sent Lee an article, I think it was shared with the all issued in California. It's just a bad product. I was hoping what I was trying to find was a class action lawsuit that we would be joined into automatically, or at least be able to participate in, and I wasn't able to successfully find that. But it could be because of the warranty they have. The warranty is just to replace the meter, and and they disclaim all of their warranties. So.
My other question is, this decision to replace them all or not, if we are going to get grants for funds where we get them, should we get enough at the same time to start looking at, phase one of the master plan and the transmission system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we need to be making tracks towards improving our distribution system. That's definitely on the agenda. Okay, the rest of my report. So be thinking about the ARP monies and how we want to divide those up. Like I said, I think I'd like to throw some towards water, but it's hard. There are a lot of grants available for water, and there's virtually nothing available for parks and things like that. We may really want to look at spending some of that money at other places in the city where grant fund type funds are not available.
That's smart.
And also, I think some areas of the city could just use some general sprucing up. And it takes money to do that.
Yes.
So that's my thinking. We don't have to solve that tonight, just wanted to let you know. So again, your creative juices can be flowing on that. Easter is coming our way. Pastor Kuda and I spoke, and I talked to him with the desire to put together a Easter sunrise service at Royal Park. It won't be a city function, it'll be a mayoral function. I don't want to tie the city into a religious event, but I don't mind tying myself into one. So we're gonna have an Easter sunrise service. I'm gonna have an Easter sunrise service at Royal Park. We'll do whatever is appropriate for the city, and I'll make that happen and make it right, so, whether I need to rent the park or whatever I need to do. But I want to have a sunrise service probably at 7 a.m. on Easter Sunday, which is April 17th. So this is my first announcement of that. And that's the end of my report. City Administrator report, item 11A. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to give you, there's basically updates here, Mr. Oldham, as I recall. First of all, the Gems, I've been talking with the Gems, you recall they were selected to be the DC of the solar of the CAC building, and they were granted that distinction. But they were at that point 10 families with no organization to them. We asked them to please get organized. That's right. And so they've since that time gone out and become a nonprofit corporation. They filed for a 501c3 IRS distinction and status. They have that. So now they're going to be coming to us very soon, us being the city attorney and myself, and coming up with an agreement that we want to have on their April agenda. So we'll have that in hand, and they can start their programs that they want to have. In the same vein, as you recall, there was a substantial ECHO grant that was used to build that building. And the ECHO grants at that time had a 40-year lifespan, which they have since discussed changing back to 15 or 20 years because it became unwieldy for many of the grantees. And I don't know if they have formally made that distinction, but they've inquired several times recently how they're doing this progress. And I think I know why they had a few pins stuck into them, so they kept asking about other groups. He says no suspicion. But we've told them they've been satisfied with what's forward on the project, and I think as long as we continue, we won't have a problem with the effort. And as I said, we'll have the agreement. This is our goal to have the agreement for you. So I want to give you that update because we really haven't talked about it much since that particular time back in November. The annual audit, this is an interesting one. Anyway, the audit's been finished since January. And you recall Zach mentioned in his presentation in February that it's been finished. And normally they would have had the auditors with him to present the audit in February. But not part of the audit is the actuarial summary for the increased pension fund. And that has to be included in the audit and to be satisfy the auditor general's rules and regulations and Tallahassee. And the audit has not been completed until just recently. It has not been completed because we had it scheduled for tonight, but it wasn't finished in time tonight, so it'll be on the April agenda. It's very late. And they know it's late. We want you also know it's the flip phone is the actuary is his part of the work completed. We also have in your packet tonight an investigative report. Again, back in starting I think in August of last year, the staff was asked to investigate a series of suggestions, accusations, of something being missed with respect to credit card charges, purchases by the city staff, and so Dominique was really assigned the task. She did, I think, a very good report summarizing the entire process and what we found, which, as we have told you on several occasions, we found nothing that has been of criminal nature, nothing that was suspicious in any way other than we found a number of purchases that were not really what we would have done. They were judgment calls, we would not have done, but they were done, and we have stopped doing them. So we want to bring closure to that whole exercise of what we're purposing that particular investigative report, which is a public document. So everybody will know what we did, how we did it, and our conclusions. I just want to make that, as a public acknowledgement that we have undertaken that assignment, completed it, and it's available for everyone to read. We have been asked to, I'm asking if you please waive the purchasing policy. We have a situation where I went out and asked the two losers, if you will, on the making of the water well thing we had with recall the two other firms, the U.S. Water and the ESI, were much more expensive, and so they were rejected. I asked both of them, they both, at the beginning of the presentation, mentioned that they would come in first of all with assessment study. And I asked them both to give me price just for that particular fund. And I wanted them to be the ones that did it, because they were familiar with the city, they had made the effort to come in and full bid with us. So following Mr. Baxter's suggestion, that that was actually one of the fresh eyes, we would have fresh eyes from somebody who at least had interest in helping us come in and give us that report. And I did not get a third bid. I'm supposed to have gotten 3 verbal bids, we got 2 written bids. The lowest one was $2,500 for the second. Except contingent on the approval of waiving the purchasing policy, instead of 3 verbals, I have 2 written. So if you agree, they will be here starting next week, and next week, and begin the field study for
Everybody follow that, is there a
I mean,
motion to do that?
I'd make a motion to, because we heard presentations from all 3 of them, and I like both of those reps. They seem very well qualified to do it. And I would take the lowest of the 2 bidders, because I think they're both quite qualified to give us a response. But I'd make a motion to waive the purchasing policy in this particular situation.
Yes. So we have,
Second.
we have a motion from Commissioner Basso, a second from Commissioner Eckert, to waive the standard purchasing policy and to award a contract to U.S. Water at the amount of $2,500 to do the assessment,
assessment study.
an assessment study that has been,
And that's going to be the whole system, production and transmission?
Yes.
Okay.
is there any discussion from the commission on that?
I'm assuming this is going to give us another layer, another level of information.
Yes.
Similar to the master plan, but maybe a little more in depth.
The master plan really is blockages in our flows, our ability to reduce fire flows with emergencies, the age of lines and prioritizing and placement of lines. This is more day-to-day operational, opposed to capital side.
Okay.
They're kind of working very hand in glove.
Okay.
Any discussion, Ms. Director?
Yeah, I think it's more focused on the production than the distribution.
Well,
Or is it both?
the production ultimately goes through the pipes, and so, again, the water tested at the plant has to also be tested in the homes and the pipes, and so it really, in that way, is the whole system.
I do have 2 blue cards, one from Eric. And then from Richard. And Nancy, I apologize for giving you a public forum. It was my apologies. We'll get back to you, I promise. Mr. Director, could you state your name and address?
Ron Herrick, 451 West Michigan. I'd just like to ask, is the commission or the public works doing their proper and legal part for flushing our hydrants, flushing our water systems?
Was that from Flushing? I'm sorry.
On flushing our system. I was talking to the person who's in charge of our water right now. He says that we are not have been doing that, and that's what's causing the problems in my neighborhood. So we're throwing more money chasing the dog's tail. Why don't we do what we're legally supposed to do? Flush our system, keep our water system up to par. We're trying to find loopholes. Just let's do our job. Have our maintenance people go out there and do their job or subcontract it out. But if we're required to flush them monthly, do it monthly. Don't say, well, we're short people. You've got an obligation to keep the water system we have just not just let them sit there so we get dirty toilets and bad water, bad bathtubs. Let's do our jobs. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Charlie, Dick?
I have three off my table here, Charlene. Because I actually came prepared to speak on the contract for biometric, so this begs the question, is this part of the reason the contract is full from tonight's agenda?
Do you want me to answer? Because I got probably a minute answer on that.
Okay.
So you want to pause for because that deserves an answer. I spoke with Carlos Scola for about an hour and a half yesterday in my office. He's the principal of biometric, and he shared some concerns that he has in working with the city. Some concerns with what we're trying to do. So he thinks there may be some misunderstandings. I understood his concerns. Then I turned around today. That sounds weird. Today, I met with the city administrator, addressed those concerns that Tola shared with me. The administrator shared concerns that he had from our side with that contract. We have a contract, but there's still concerns. So that being yesterday and today, we didn't have a comfort level with asking the commission to approve that contract today. We need to work on those concerns. I bow to the discretion of our city administrator and ask to put that forward to the next meeting.
Because it's kind of putting the bid out, I would think that fresh eyes would have been done before the bid went out, so that we actually knew what we were. And both of those other bids actually included what he's having done in their bid. They would have done that had they came in. I'm gonna go ahead and say what I was gonna say about the contract, because, I feel this is important. Last month, y'all voted to accept the bid from biometric that was not comparable to the others. And then I skipped forward to number one. I would like to point out a couple of things you may or may not have noticed. Biometric's invoice for January was $3,588. The invoice for February is $8,170. Yes, there are some added repair charges on February's invoice, but that is my point exactly. We are getting the bare minimum services for that contracted price. Everything above bare minimum is an add-on charge. We will never receive an invoice for the contracted amount. Because if it truly could be done for that contracted amount, that means they've just been overcharging us for the last years that they've been here, because they've never charged that amount before. If that contract's signed, I will follow these monthly invoices during the contract period, and I'm willing to bet that when I present the commission the grand total at the end of the year, someone will be shocked at the actual amount. What good does it do to accept the lowest bid and then allow yourselves to be nickel and dime to death?
Thank you.
I think what should have been done is what we're doing now, which is having these companies come in and do an assessment of operation. I think if that would have been done before we put this out to bid, I think it would have given us a more rounded and more concise quotes from everyone. With that said, I was under the impression that the master plan was going to give us enough information that we needed to put this out. I didn't realize that it didn't give us everything we wanted. Hopefully, we're on the right track now.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to waive the purchasing policy and to award a contract to U.S. Water in the amount of $2,500 to give us a
Fresh eyes assessment or assessment.
an assessment of our water system as negotiated by our city administrator. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for your information, Biometric did ask why I did not approach them. for the fresh eyes, and I very easily informed them that they don't have fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Took you a long time to work that answer out, didn't it?
Yeah, it's you're right. So anyway, that's why I purposely didn't, I wanted to know why. Anyway, the tree ordinance, we have the tree ordinance on our books, and as you know, the state legislature preempted our authority to enforce cutting trees down. The state legislature has that before them now. Anyway, they are moving right along with that, and it's expected to be signed by the governor soon. Not soon. So hopefully by the end of the session and July 1 effective date, legislation will be such that we can then once again enforce the tree ordinance, which everybody, I think, is going to be very happy. I know we will.
Mr. Administrator, if I can interrupt you for a moment. I did get a letter from the Arbor Day Foundation saying that we had once again been awarded the designation of being a Tree City USA, and congratulating us on that and for all our hard work to achieve it. And they said the 4 things that we had done to do that, and we haven't done any of them. So, congratulations. We might want to, I will bring that to the next meeting and see if y'all want to consider doing those things. I don't know that we should, but I'll get that information to you. I just noticed that this afternoon, looking over what I was going to say tonight, and it shocked me. So, thank you.
Okay. We've had some observations by citizens that we have trash indiscriminately thrown on the roads, right of ways. And so we're looking into a dedication program or volunteer programs where citizens or organizations in the city can adopt roads for cleanliness of trash and things like that. It does make a difference. I'll report back to you when we have more on that.
We have some discussion on that. Sure.
We do have a Keep Lake Home Beautiful program that was established by Daisy Rattler when she was in office. And we have a number of citizens around town up on the north end. And I believe Nancy Weary takes care of parts of Main Street. And there's some other ones around that pick up trash around the area. And then the project, I got the neighborhood together to help clean up Pennsylvania. So there's different areas that are being done. We just need to advertise our Keep Lake Home Beautiful program more and get more citizens out.
We just need to dust that program off and form it. Right. So I'll get back to you on that. I want you to know that we are doing inventory of our public works vehicles. And we've come to the conclusion we have a number of surplus vehicles not needed for our daily operations. And we're exploring the opportunity to take them to an auction. And that's generally the way the municipalities are trying to get rid of these things. And then you can legitimately say you've got the true cost of the vehicle through the open auction process. So I will be informing you a little later when we're ready to do something with what we're probably doing. But I want you to know that we've done that work so far. The city website, we're going to improve and upgrade the city website. I met with a vendor who is working with, he did Ormond Beach for a while, he's doing the city of Edgewater. We'd like to introduce software into the system that is much more manageable by the employees of the city. Right now, our software we use for our website design and changes is cumbersome, to say the least. Dominic can talk about it a little more if you'd like. But the new software that we're suggesting is much more amenable to individuals who have very little practice and or experience in website design and manipulation. And we think it will allow us to have a much better looking. The whole idea is going back, because this is something that we've talked about many times in the past. The communication systems have frequently come to me, and I'm sure they've come to you. You know, they feel they're being left out of communication circles, And we use the website, and the city attorney has mentioned it. You really should confine yourself to one particular system, which is the one that is acknowledged by the state, and that would be our website. If you do any more than that, you may be diluting our audience, and if we forget to do something on the optional ones, they can accuse us of not being properly advertised meetings or events or whatever. I didn't say that very well. You can say that. So we want the website though to be the first choice for citizens to go to if they have any question about what's happening in the city, even on a daily basis. Today, you all got emails on the weather that's coming through, news yesterday. Something like that, where you can put instantly on the website emergency weather notices, as an example, tornado, hurricane information that season. So it can be used as a very frequent notifier of things in the community. That's what we'd like to work for, and it's possible we have software that will make that possible, and just not leak out as the prime source of changing everything in the website. Chief of the being just not a high priority. So that's what we'd like to do, is to have that new software presented. I had to get that proposal, dollars for that thing, so. I had that proposal from the vendor to talk to you. But maybe we break out the special meeting, it's my understanding.
Do we need to do something similar here? We just talked about with the water system, in that you need to get a professional coming here to assess the situation and let us know what we need, or do we already know what we need? We can put that.
Well, both. We know we have a system now that's very awkward. So, we'd like to get a better software system that is more universally usable by anybody in the staff. Yeah.
I'd like to weigh in. We do have basically a freeware kind of system that's awkward at best, and limited in what it can do for us. It's been budget friendly, and, but it's limiting us. Mayor Racer, when she was here, did a lot of work in creating the website as it is now. And, kudos to her for that. But we need to be able to continue improving that, I believe. The gentleman that came in from, what was the name of the company? Valor Bound. Yeah, Valor Bound Web Services came in and gave us a presentation. He looked at our website, gave us a presentation to provide a website to us, all that we would need, all the training we'd need. It was a good presentation. It was $3,000 for the website, plus $2,000 to also at the same time make that website mobile friendly, because about 80% of hits on websites are for mobile devices now. So it doesn't make sense to do just a PC-based system. So it'd be a $5,000 total bill. We don't have a contract, but that was his proposal. Be a $5,000 expenditure to have, I think, a first-rate company design for us, take what we have now and really make it work, and train staff, and he's willing to train any number of staff within that dollar amount. It was a good presentation. I think we could, we were excited about it during that meeting, and I think we still are. Sometimes it's excitement fades after a few days, but we do have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If they can train me to use the system, then anybody can use that.
Are you our test monkey?
I might very well be.
Okay.
This is not my area of expertise, so, when I'm being asked to waive the purchasing policy, I want to make sure that those of you who have a better understanding of what we're looking at are sure that the direction we're going. That's all.
I appreciate that. We do have two, commissioners on this, and I want to make sure I was speaking.
Yeah, I was wondering what the other two verbal.
I'm sorry, what?
I was wondering what the other two verbal quotes.
We have not had any other additional quotes. One thing that you can address this differently if you want, but I don't know how many hundreds of website companies in this town. To put it out for bid would be possibly something we should do, but I'm thinking it might be better just to pick this company and go with it. But we can discuss that. That's what we're doing right now, actually. And it's a good question.
Mayor, one thing I would add is, and I think with Daisy working on the website, something that's very important, that any website redesign has to be ADA compliant. And that was a major issue the last few years for people who have disabilities to access the website. And
That
so-
was not a question that was asked. in the
that is an enormously huge issue because cities are getting sued all around Volusia County, all around the state, really all around the country over ADA access to your website. And then, so, the question is, how's a blind person do it? How's a deaf person do it? And maybe making something ADA compliant and maybe part of the clumsiness of the website. And so we really need to evaluate the ADA compliance aspect of it because a lot of things came off of websites for municipalities. And the cities I represent, they had great websites, but they had all these functions that were not ADA compliant. So we had to we had to pull all that stuff off and make it very bare bones.
Isn't that sad?
But
That's not the way the ADA is supposed to work. But I can't hold you accountable.
I guess it
for that,
kind
can I?
of depends on who you ask, but I think before you.
I will say this company does, work with numerous other cities. Hopefully they will have an answer to that question.
Yeah,
But
to
we
make
did
sure,
not ask.
I guess more for staff, whoever, if we go into a website redesign, ADA compliance is hugely important. And it was, if you go back 2-3 years, it was a major issue in the country, and I know it was a major issue in Volusia County, and Central Florida. I mean, cities were getting sued because, and one of the cities I had, we said, what do you want? And so I had a line or whatever, I don't know what it was. We said, we'll drive our documents to you and read them to you. And that's how we comply with the ADA. We said, you tell us what you want and we'll bring it to you, just to avoid getting sued. Because the people there are law firms, and that's really the problem. It's not the law, it's the lawyers. Get criticized in our profession, it is the lawyers. But they will get one client who will make all the go around and hit every jurisdiction and make a request and say, well, you're not ADA compliant, and that person will end up suing. And they've done it for bus stop benches, they've done it for lights, the traffic control lights crossing the roads. They'll get one person, go around the whole Volusia County and say your bus stops are not ADA compliant. And then that's the plaintiff in the lawsuit to sue the county and all the cities. And one of the cities we have, we said, fine, by law, we don't have to have a bus stop, pull them all out. Good luck. We don't have to give you a bus stop. So that's what we did, pulled every one of them out. And so, unfortunately, that's how sometimes you have to retaliate against these types of lawsuits. And, the law is there to help people, as you said, that's not the intent of the law. There are some people who abuse it.
Of course.
And you end up getting clumsy websites because that's the quickest, easiest way to make them ADA compliant.
Well,
So,
thank you for that.
Just think about it.
Word of caution, and we will, I will ask staff to, ask that question of the website designer that we talked to. How do you want to proceed at this point?
I would suggest we put it on a special meeting, and I'll have a written proposal from there and all the questions answered, discussed,
Let me say then that there were two blue cards for people who wanted to speak on the website. Ron Herrick.
Ask a question.
Of course, Commissioner Hurst.
While we're talking about ADA, is the city compliant in our phone system was it a TDY capable system?
We are with the 911 system, and that's managed by the sheriff.
What about somebody that's calling into the city for a general question and they need that TDY?
No, I don't see that.
Well, thank you for asking that in open
Yeah.
forum.
Mr. Parrott?
trustee Wonder West, Michigan. This was another one on the agenda that I had to speak on. We're getting into the habit of just waiving our procedures. If it calls for 3 bids, get 3 bids. Don't, because it's gonna start looking like buddy deals. No pun intended. But it just, it's crazy. You just gotta, if you're supposed to get 3 bids, get 3 bids. If you can't get 3 bids, then that's something different. But just to pick, oh, I think they're a good company. That's not using my taxpayer money appropriate. And is it very funny, Roger? Did I say something?
No, he was showing me something that I need to.
Okay, so
I need
you
to make sure I didn't skip.
weren't paying attention to me.
No,
I won't take any more of your time.
Ms. Fair, we weren't, he was just showing something he wanted me to not miss.
It's about our finance and policy review thing, which talks about your issue in it.
And we're coming close to the end of the meeting, you want to make sure I didn't miss it. Betty Laughlin also asked to speak on the website.
Betty Laughlin, 715 Casey Road, and I do agree with Ron. If you're supposed to, only because I was here when Don Miguel was here, and it was three bids. You put it out, you couldn't just pick one because they were nice and friendly and everything, because we went into that when we were doing it all at Lake Macy. And I said, well, why can't we do this? He said, no, you have to have 3 bids, which is what we ended up doing. So I'm definitely, we have procedure, let's not, that's what the procedure, okay, when I said the website, right, now, I do go on the website and how to work it, I haven't worked before and stuff like that. However, we need to come up with some way to meet the needs of other citizens who don't go on the website. And we've been preaching about, we have, what's that called? Okay, all right, we need, at each one of our parks, we need a bulletin board that wants to close. So the messages, and then we need to get our citizens to go look at that. Now, I realize that's something else that needs to be fixed or changed or added to, but that's something that the Parks and Playground Committee could do. That could be something we could actually step up and help with that. We had a newspaper for years, Pat Chapman and I did a newsletter for years, and people loved it because it kept them up on information that was going on, because not everybody, as the vet told me when I was trying to find, maybe you saw that post, well, old people don't always look at the build up on, on websites or on social media to see if somebody has lost a dog. So we have different levels of citizens here, and we need to make it possible for them to know what's going on, what's been done, or who they can call. And that I'm sorry, I'm a paper person. I love my computer most of the time, then there's days I don't. But I'm a paper person, and sometimes people need, even to come by, do a campaign, come by City Hall and pick up a flyer, or a newsletter. Let people know what's out there and put the permanent information. It has to be done every week, and maybe that's something that could be pulled off the website and print it. But I think, and then put it up on the board that's in there, and then we have these boards at least all the parks in the different areas, and put it up there. And I know it needs to really probably be behind glass, so it's right on and stuff like that, but I think we need to address that, because people don't know what's going on, and some don't even know who their commissioners are, they don't, everybody knows who Robert Strick is, that's great. But, so that would be my suggestion is, what can we come up with to do that?
Thank
To help our citizens.
Nancy, I'm going to call on you now. I apologize for skipping you earlier, and so you got the floor.
Thank you, Nancy Berry. I've been reviewing the engineering bills for the parks as a citizen, not so much as a committee member. And I know last month you all approved $18,000 for Melissa Park. And to date, about $3,000, well, actually, that money hasn't been spent because I guess that was on boundary survey. What I noticed was Royal Park has a invoice for $40,700. And I'm curious how that could possibly be when Royal Park is not supposed to be started until after Melissa Park has been finished. And I know it's like beating that dead horse, and I keep bringing this forward, but I keep seeing these things and wondering, when are we going to get through Melissa Park? When are we gonna have these plans so that the community, all of us can kind of move together and finish that? And you all do whatever it is you're gonna do with Royal Park, because it's really not fair to all the citizens in this city.
Do you have a report Lee, on this?
Which one, Melissa?
Yes.
Yes. Melissa Park is very well along. We do have a contract out for the engineering. We found it at the survey. We acquired the property some time ago. We have funding from CDBG. We have 25,000 in line for, that comes from the agreement, the negotiated agreement with that property owner that built the house in their own place. The mayor and I talked, we probably, I would like to recommend we probably reserve 100,000 of the American Rescue to give us the medical funds to do it correctly and have a Melissa Park that we're all proud of. We have 2 prices now, and I need to get a third one to do, redo the basketball court. As soon as we find out where it's supposed to be, we can do the basketball court. So it is coming along, but you can't see anything. That's the problem. People have been frustrated with it since I've been here. First of all, we had to put Melissa Park together because we had private property in the middle of it, so we finally done that. We got the CDBG grant. We've had 25 all along. We now have the engineering go forward with it. And it's going to come together, but it's frustratingly slow.
How much was the cumulative expense to buy the properties that we had to acquire?
How much? One of them was 25,000, I believe it was. One was 3,000, one was 2,000. 2 of them were not buildable, but those were the appraised value. We had each of them appraised by an independent company, and 2 of them agreed to that. The third one wanted an additional, I believe, 3,000, which we agreed to, because they also supplied a survey of the property, which fit into the general survey, and so we had something of value from that. So, that was.
And what is 40,000 for Royal Park? What is that for?
That's for our stormwater project that is along Michigan. Right at the bottom of Lake Helen there, we have a stormwater project that's been in the works, at least the planning stage, for a long time, way before me. But that is, we consider that it is part of Royal Park. That is under work. It's not Royal Park that most people would consider, although there are plans to take a sidewalk over to what will be the pavilion area. But all the work's being done is on the stormwater, keeping Michigan from flowing into the river or into the lake, basically, and doing it in a way that pre-treats the water from gets into the lake too.
Nancy, is that explanation satisfying?
I'm just curious about the design and permitting and the concept and the total of 40,000, when I don't think anybody voted on that per se. Now, if it's stormwater, that's one thing.
That's what it's like, I think.
Yeah, that was stormwater, that's
All of it's been approved by the commission.
yeah, we did approve that, I remember voting on it.
Okay.
I think.
I don't think it has anything to do with any building or anything that the legacy group is involved with, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I believe there was part of that was part of the foundation for some of that project, as we had discussed before, which was part of a $48,000 agreement with ECT.
Well, to kind of wrap it up a little bit, I don't begrudge you beating the drum a little bit, because it's something you're trying to hold our feet to the fire. That's what citizens are here to do. That's fine. We feel like we're doing it. We really do want to faithfully work towards that Melissa Park project. So that's,
We do too.
we're on the same page. Keep holding our feet to the fire. Don't mind going.
And do we have an estimated timeline on Melissa Park?
On Melissa Park, it has to be done within the year. Because that's when the CDBG funds, it'll run out if we start writing nasty letters. We don't want that, because obviously we like to make it grant next year for CDBG. So I was going to see any mitigations, but it's coming along. Yeah. let me get a timeframe for the next meeting, or for the special meeting, so we can do that.
Great.
I'm holding you to what you told me by the end of October.
There you go. That's the new fiscal year.
Well, I know one of the holdups was getting the survey. The survey process, we ordered it, and normally they come up like the next day. And now, in the modern world, somehow,
It was
it
almost
doesn't work that way.
6 months.
It was almost 6 months this time. So, I mean, how can that be a supply chain issue? I don't know, but for some reason, COVID. So, we're moving along at a glacial pace of government, but we are forgetting, and don't let us.
If we can put the website on the special, I'll come up with additional information and proposal for the special meeting. And I have two other things very briefly I'd like to present. One is the Friends of the Library is an organization that used to exist, died off, if you will, but now people are trying to bring it back, and they would like to hold a meeting in Hopkins Hall. You recall when we set up the people who could use it at no cost, they were not on that list because they were no longer active. So they simply asked, can we use Hopkins Hall with the same waiver of rental, but they have to clean it up and everything. So it's actually, we would certainly recommend it. It's just another organization I'm sure they would have approved if they hadn't been in existence.
What's, just as a sidebar, I think it affects this, but what sort of authentication do any of the groups that are on the list, do they have to show in order to understand that they meet the criteria, if you will?
That they're a member of the.
In other words, how do you decide who goes on that list?
We went through the list that was from 2011, I believe, and took off those that were no longer in existence. And I'm not sure if Friends was one of them or not. Take off the ones, and then we came to you and recommended that these people are active, and we would recommend they not be charged the rental, but they have to clean fee or damage fee.
Yeah, I guess that's the question I asked, how do you go through the process of ascertaining whether a group should or should not be on the list?
We basically took the first list and took off those no longer active, and I think we may have added one or two that were not on the list we knew were active. I'm not sure we did that.
Would you, I mean, we could require, that they have an active corporation, and you can be a not-for-profit, that's something you create under state law, but to be a 501c3, that's a designation from the federal government. So we could, limit that list to 501c3s or charitable organizations. You got to show us your proof of designation as a charity, or if you've applied to be a charity.
Yeah, I don't know how difficult those things are, I certainly don't want to make volunteers.
It's pretty difficult, but it's a good way to make sure that the organization is truly charitable, because the IRS looks into it, as opposed to, anybody can set up a not-for-profit. All you gotta do is set up a not-for-profit. It does not, that's totally different than a charitable organization. Sometimes people think that they're one and the same, and they're not. Not-for-profit is a state designation type of corporation you create under state law. The tax exempt status comes from the federal government. So, and it's limited in terms of how you qualify for tax exempt. So that is something anybody's tax exempt is clearly give us their tax exempt status, or if we wanted to limit it to those types of entities.
I think, rather than limit it, I think if we start into the process, because we know who the organizations are already, just ask them, do you have the status? If you don't, do a period of time, if you want to continue to be on this list, you have this much time in order to be, have the qualifications that you need. I just think it protects the city. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, do we want to approve the Friends of the Library to have access to Hopkins Hall?
I would. I do.
I need a motion.
How would you like that worded? Is there a name of the list? Approved vendors?
Friends of the Library, what they call themselves.
Do you want to add them to the list, or do you want to just approve them for this event?
Well, that's a good point, because they're just attempting to organize themselves right now.
Well, let's just approve it for this event, and then once you deep dive into those
If they
qualifications,
become
we want
a
to do
regular event, it was.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the Friends of the Library for this particular event.
Second.
Have a motion from Commissioner Vasco, a second from Commissioner Eckert to approve the Friends of the Library event at Hopkins Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. You said you had two things, Mr. Administrator?
Yes, the other is, I wanted to bring you up today, we had a situation on Chopper Lane, that a gentleman with a heart condition needed an ambulance, and Chopper Lane is a dedicated public right of way that was accepted for maintenance by the city, and that's a very rare event to have it actually on a plat, but it was there. We have not done anything to maintain it. The ambulance got stuck, it's about 300 feet long, got stuck very close to the beginning of the lane. So as an emergency correction, we went out and leveled it off with dirt and bulldozed it, solidified it. We're gonna have to come back with some surface now that is more weatherproof than just dirt. And I wanted you to know that I did that, didn't even get bids. We heard a lot about bids today, and sometimes, the bids are a great thing, but sometimes you don't have time to do them, and sometimes you're not buying things that are easily biddable. It's a great concept, but you just don't, if you want to buy a piece of art, how do you bid that? Or you want to sell a vehicle, how do you sell it correctly? We've taken the option just to prove we're trying to get fair market value on it. And our purchasing policy says up to $5,000, up to $5,001, $5,000. I have to get, anybody, any department has to get 3 verbal quotes, not written quotes, but verbal. So, can you imagine in this small community, you go to 3 people and ask them, how much would you do for it? Okay. And you can stick to what you want in the first place anyway. So it's really not as easy as it sounds like to do what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to get the best bang for the buck. And that's always the goal. But you also don't want to spend public money on something that is not going to be satisfactory as a final result. And we all know that you can have contractors do A quality work, B quality work, C quality work, and even D is acceptable, but as long as they did what you asked them to do. But you want to spend money for A quality work, and that probably will cost you a little more. But all I'm saying is we need to think about how we can do this in a better way. And I don't have an answer, quite frankly. But the way it works now, it's just, there are so many ways you can avoid it. We're not trying to avoid it. Emergencies are things that simply happen, but there's got to be a better way to do the bidding process so you get good purchases, but they're done in a way that we get the best product too. And I'm just buying time. You think about that? Because we just need to do something.
I understand both sides of the equation, and I tend to look at one, if it's an emergent situation, I'm more apt to circumvent the process. If I'm really knowledgeable about a particular process, I will be more comfortable because I already know the values and I know what you're telling me, the numbers it's going in, and I'm good with that. But beyond that, once again, we're talking about improving the what do you call that stuff with people go online and look at whatever?
Website.
Yeah, there you go.
I really don't know what you're talking about.
Clues, okay? But when we talk about chalk running, we talk about this kind of thing, I weigh into that, and I'd be more apt to weigh situations where I'm knowledgeable than not. So, and I lead on my brother specific on the mission up here, that as I learn what realms they are well educated in, I would tend to support their decisions on those things. So I think that for the most part, we follow the rules. But in those two particular situations, it's either emergent or we're really knowledgeable on it and we're really knowledgeable about the person who did it. I think, and when the numbers are smaller, Okay, I know $5,000 doesn't necessarily sound small, but.
For a city with a $4 million plus budget.
Yeah.
Pretty small.
So, anyway,
I will say that accusations about us not following rules are actually inappropriate. The rules allow us to waive certain things. We can avail ourselves of that allowance or not. So to say we're breaking the rules when we waive something isn't a fair assessment of that, if we have the right to waive. So.
Chalk Lane's a good example, because we did it as an emergency fix, we filled in the dirt, compacted it. It'll stay like that for about 6 months, but we need to put a more weatherproof seal top on it. And we'll bid that out, because emergency's over with now, it can be used by an ambulance, but we need to make it more weatherproof, so we don't have to go back for 6 months.
yeah, as we get into the rainy season, that needs to become sooner than later.
Yeah, so, and that we will get a price on. And there are a lot of people that have it. I already have one bid, but we'll get a couple others.
Well, right now, from what my understanding, price on millings are somewhere between $400 and $600 a truck.
Yep.
And it was only several and more. I'm gonna lay in that.
This week they went up.
And it wasn't long ago that, and 4 or 5 years ago, that they were $220.
Yeah.
So, that's a supply and demand kind of thing as well. I suggest that the next time that there's a greater supply and the prices go down, the city look into, stockpile, for future.
We do have some, but not enough to do that lane.
Right.
We just use for potholes, so.
Yeah, 300 feet's big.
Yeah, 300 feet's a whole bunch. Interesting problem, because millings are basically road pavement without the volatiles of the oil going back with it. So to make new road pavement, you need the oil. Guess what oil costs now? So a lot of these are really cheap, but, for the asphalt's here, this price suddenly comes up close to it.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but the homeowner, whose husband had a heart attack, called me, and, when I went over there, okay, this is emergency care.
Yeah.
We really don't need to put ourselves in a situation where we're gonna have losses because we're not doing what we said we would do back in 1976.
Again, that's very important. We actually have on the plat, we've accepted it for maintenance, so it's our obligation.
So with that said, I'd make a motion to instruct staff to immediately, if they haven't done it already, put a request for proposals out to get either or get millings or pay or whatever you need to do to ensure that they can continue to get in there, because as we get into the rainy season, there will be problems if we're not diligent in that solve.
We have consensus on that for staff to do that work and then bring us a proposal.
One of the roads that needs to be paid.
It won't be paved, it'll be millers will be put on it. It's kind of a poor man's asphalt. But it will keep it weatherproof, so you don't have to go there for 6 months. And again, it's not asphalt, because it will deteriorate much more quickly than asphalt, but it's a lot cheaper than that. And it depends on the volume of, if you've got a single car going in and out, the garbage truck may not go over it well, but there's not that much demand on the roads, so I'm trying to say.
How much did the emergency patch
Well,
cost?
the emergency was, I think it was $1,700 for just filling the dirt, leading it down. The millings, we had one price of $3,000 for the millings, just the millings to go over it. I haven't got any other two votes.
And that sounds about like this, what is that, 400 feet in there?
It's 300 some feet.
Yeah.
So it's a fair piece.
The price is going up because the fuel to deliver almost doubled. So.
Exactly.
While you're working on reviewing all the financial policies and everything else, look up the thing to where something can be put in on the bidding process that in emergencies, you don't have to go by that, bring it back to us to give us something, so because we've got a couple of emergency issues on one on West Kick Life and then the one on Chalker and stuff like that.
We have one, there's something in there.
It's in there that it's authorized, but now that we're at the meeting, you should motion to waive the bidding policy after we've already.
But you have to be declared emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, you have declared emergency, and that typically they're for hurricanes, and usually for utility operations.
So would you like to have a motion declaring an emergency in that situation?
No,
And
just,
To waive the policy.
just the way the
just
policy.
to waive the policy?
Chalker, yeah, and I'm gonna get bids for the top coat. But that's just an example of, sometimes the policy doesn't fit the occasion.
So do I have a motion to waive the policy, or waive the bidding process?
Yeah.
For Chalker Lane,
The emergency of the resolution.
to address the emergency and then to pursue bids for the improvement.
That'll do it.
When
Yeah, I'll
the
make
motion.
motion. Sure.
I'll second.
What you said, I made that was awful.
Commissioner Rutledge has moved and Commissioner Basso has seconded said motion. Any further discussion?
I would still like to see you come up with some authorization in that.
Just for.
Purchasing for
Yeah.
especially emergency vehicle access.
Yeah.
Things like that, that we need, we're required by the citizens to get the emergency vehicles in there. And I'd hate to have to call a tow truck, to take the tow fire truck into a fire.
The current rule basically says, in the event of an apparent emergency, the administrator can go, there's no dollar limit. You can go out and best deal he can. And if the, hereby given authority to act in the case of any emergency that might affect the public health, safety, and welfare. If emergency expenditure deviates from the rules established herein, which means doesn't follow the rules, he exceeded the budget amount or the amount not budgeted, such action shall be reported in writing to the city commission within 24 hours, and such report shall be presented to the city commission at its next regular meeting for appropriate action.
So with the exception of the written report, we've done everything.
Well,
Yeah.
I notified you by email and.
Oh, okay, so
You got a written report. So
You're right,
there, he has the authority, and it's an apparent emergency. It's not a declared emergency. It doesn't have to be anything declared by the governor.
Yeah, so I think that covers it.
Yeah.
that's good, thank you.
And actually, it's broader than most. Usually, what I've seen is there's a dollar threshold.
Yeah, usually there's a limit on it.
Yeah, like 25,000 or something like that. This ours is more or less a number.
Well, I believe that the city administrator knows that he serves at the pleasure of the board, so I don't think he'll go too crazy.
Yeah. So it's.
But thank you, that's important to clarify. For our knowledge, we're all learning up here as we go. I was expecting,
We got to vote on this, the motion.
oh, wow, you're right, Howard. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, or any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Administrator, for handling that for us, and we look forward to fixing that work completely.
Yeah, thank you.
I was,
Real quick, Mayor, I had a request to announce that we're having a TNR information session, March 30th at City Hall. Track Mover Release.
I'm sorry, what?
Track Mover Release, TNR. information
Tracking
session.
and release.
Cats.
Neuter, please, sorry. That's a word I'm not used to hearing.
Yes, March 30th at 3 o'clock in the conference room.
Was that heard well? Thank you. I was expecting a little bit more of a presentation on this, am I mistaken?
If you want one.
On the,
It's up to you if you want.
did we want to go through this line by line, or did you not want to do that?
Up to you guys.
You know,
If you have questions.
It's pretty intense to go line by line.
I know.
And if you have general questions, we can talk about it.
what we really want to do is bring closure to that entire.
I understand.
activity. And it's up to you.
Well, what I'll do then at this point, if this is okay with the rest of y'all, we have been presented this, it's part of public record. We've all read it, I'm sure, and will if we haven't. Let's discuss it again at the special meeting, maybe not for a long period of time, but if anybody in the public wants to weigh in on this, they also have it now. And we can discuss it again at the special meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd at 6 p.m. Because this is an important report. We do need to, what's the best way to say it? Address these very important issues that have been brought to us in a variety of ways, largely by the citizens, and I think the staff has addressed them very well. And I want to not dwell on them, but I want to give credit where credit is due, which is both in-house and to the citizens. This is important information that we want to make sure we don't gloss over, like we're trying to hide something, because we're not. That's why it's here in the public record. So we'll discuss this again, and I do have one public comment request on policy review by Charlene Bishop. Was that?
Said it by guess who?
Yeah. So would you mind speaking on this now? And
I wanted to speak on the cell phone portion of it. How on God's earth does the city of our size have a $20,000 a year cell phone bill? Who in their right mind would not question this and figure out a way to reduce these charges? Yes, the current administrator has reduced these charges by half and needs to continue to reduce it. But why and for how long was this allowed to continue? I'm sorry, but I believe at least one commissioner could spend as little as 2 hours a month reviewing our bills and our accounts. A lot of this overspending could have been avoided. But sadly, when a former mayor and a commissioner tried to do that, they were charged to view and then labeled haters, popsters, and mean girls. Some currently still serving on the commission were a part of this.
well, thank you, Ms. Bishop, and I will give credit to you. A lot of the information in this report is due to your legitimate questioning of the city. Every citizen has the right to question the city in certain ways and receive reasonable answers. So I appreciate
And
that.
I appreciate all that work too.
Yeah, but a lot of work's been done because of your questions, and a lot of it's been good work. So thank you. And I'm not blowing smoke, I really do thank you.
Because I tell you that all the time, stop looking.
Commissioner,
And this report includes a lot of information that came in on previous reports also. It's good. It points out a lot of the shortcomings of our policies and stuff like that. And if it's all right with the rest of the commission, if you guys want to go ahead and take it further and do any updates and present any updates on policies that needs to be corrected to enforce some of the stuff not happening again, we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, well, as you see from the report, we have a lot of work yet to do in coming up with solutions on this. And I will tell you, the answer from Charlene, you know, we're still turning over rocks. And there are very few days that go by that we don't go, oh my God, I didn't know that. You know? And it's embarrassing.
That's true.
Yeah, but it's true. So I don't want you to think we're sitting on our hands.
well, there's just to outline this for those of you here, there's 6 topics in this report, and almost each of them have 2 or 3 recommendations for further action. We're not putting this to bed, we're continuing to work. I was thinking we were gonna kind of hit on some of those, but I will ask you all as commissioners to look at these recommendations for further action when we get together March 23rd at 6 p.m. I would like to address some of those things, because these loose ends that we're bragging about tying up here, we better follow through and get them tied up. So thank you, and thank you staff for hearing all this. It's been a lot of work, a lot of very necessary. Thank you.
I think it's important to read the conclusion. the driving force of the review of our finances and policies was a concern of criminal theft, misappropriation of city funds. Throughout our extensive review process, we uncovered no evidence supporting this claim. That being said, we'd still like to acknowledge that we did uncover some problems with the way that the business was being handled. We discovered poor adherence to policies, procedures, and lack of administrative oversight of spending practices, decisions of employees. Staff is confident that the concerns discussed in the vote report have been addressed or are in the process of being addressed. New practices have been put in place to ensure better adherence to city policies and procedures. No further investigations are recommended at this time. I believe that we're in the process of healing. I also believe in the phone believer, and we had Casey, we had Jason, we had Becky. Anytime you have that type of turmoil in a short period of time in a city, shit falls to the cracks. Nobody is perfect. No one in this room, on either side of the table. And so with that said, when we look at mistakes, the punishment should fit the intent of the crime. And when somebody intentionally defrauds the city, they should be punished. If someone unintentionally does it, they should be chastised. So I'm not done with this, because as you work forward with policies and procedures, we need to continue to make sure that we're all happy with the direction. So far, I am happy with the direction that you guys are doing. It's a shame, quite frankly, that we're here, that we have the level of dysfunction that we've had. Without the vigilance and diligent behavior of citizens, we would not be here. Let us not also forget that there is a disruptive nature to shining the lights on and digging up the bodies. And so it costs the city. And so when we look into doing things of that nature, let's make sure that the cost to solve a problem is not larger and a bigger mistake than the problem itself. And thank you all for your work.
Yeah, there's a cost and benefit ratio there that we always have to keep in mind. And there's the other adage that came to mind, I love old sayings, is once shame on you, twice shame on me. All these recommendations for future action will address that side of the equation. We don't want these things to fall through the crack again. So thank you.
Before we conclude, I want to speak on the statement.
Mr. Eckert, you have the floor.
I don't know if I get his name right or not, but Mr. Perry, or is it Perry? Perry? I apologize if you felt like I was not listening to your comments and everything. It is the same comments that when I'm walking around town that other citizens also express. And with the review and everything, the staff has been doing, we're making corrections. We're trying to get our policies back in alignment to where everybody does them correctly. And there are a lot of flexibilities that as the commission we have on some of the policies that we're allowed to do. But yes, your concern about us bypassing the bidding process is very concerning. We do it a lot, and I think we do it more than what we should be doing it. And it's one of the things that I'm hoping the staff will come out with their recommendations on how to correct it.
I'll add to that what I took from your comment was the flushing part. I've made a mental note to talk to our public works people and also our water oversight people to work towards that. One of the main things in our water master plan that our engineer told us last meeting was that as we redesign and not redesign, as we improve the water flow through the system, we have 6-inch mains going into 2-inch mains coming back out of the 4-inch mains. Those kind of things create slow spots. But as we unify the system and get it all to a unified standard, a a lot of those flushing needs go away. And so in my mind, I'm looking at the bigger dollars, as working towards having those needs go away. We do need to flush in the meantime, and that's why I look at it, I made mental notes as well. Your remarks were not ignored, I assure you. Any additional comments? Wow,
No, right?
I'm excited.
One more.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that was just it.
Couldn't leave it away.
Well, I could, I dig against the clock.
Here comes the 2-hour time.
One more thing.
If everybody enjoyed last November, the beginning, when you got that extra hour of sleep at nighttime, don't forget Sunday night, you're gonna lose that hour.
I'm a big guy.
Just waking up an hour later.
So she's got.
So this meeting really like, not.
Mrs. Linda, do you want to address the
I
commission?
just,
Could you approach the podium and give your name and address, please?
I just want to say that Andy County, really and truly, has been so receptive to all citizens in this community for their concerns, and this piece of work, this policy review is just wonderful. It just makes the people feel like they're listening to us, and we really want to do something, and we owe her a debt of gratitude, because she's done all the work.
Here,
You do care.
Very well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Liz, for that comment. Appreciate it. Any other needs from staff? Commission? Audience? Meeting is adjourned at 9:37.
Really should be simple time.
Yeah. Buzzkill.